Welcome to Neo Royal House of Pricey Cardboard. Joining me on today's episode of Commander Gameplay, we have a webcam match with Guillaume, Stéphane, and Kelly. Stéphane will be playing Feather the Redeemed. This is a pretty typical Feather list looking to win by commander damage. His commander's ability allows him to reuse pump spells on Feather every turn, which can give some solid protection, damage, and draw options in burrows. Guillaume will be playing Zaxara the Exemplary. Since we last saw this list on the channel, Guillaume removed a couple of X spells finishers like Torment of Hellfire and brought back the focus more on hydras, as this was the part he liked best about this deck. He is still very powerful, as Zaxara will create huge creatures for a majority of his spells. I will be playing Atraxa, Praetor's Voice. I have decided to take down this list as I do not enjoy this deck anymore, so this video will be a goodbye to a very old deck. At the moment of recording, I was trying out -1/-1 cards to see if I could spice up the list, so you've got a package of +1/+1, -1/-1, and a little bit of Planewalkers. I don't think it's a bad deck on the surface, but it's linear, fragile, and everybody's scared of it, a very bad mix. Finally, on the opposing hand of the fun spectrum, Kelly is playing Anowon the Ruined Thief. This rogue tribal list will cast a lot of evasive creatures and pump them to finish the table while bypassing other blockers. If damage is not an option, milling will be an excellent plan B. Our opening hand contains Blighted Agent, Sir Conrad the Grim, Counterspell, Dowsing Dagger, Fitted Pools, an island, and a swamp. A very good hand, I think, considering the agent is unblockable, the dagger has good chance to flip into a Gilded Lotus, and Anowon will then come in to draw some cards. Conrad is also a very powerful piece in a mill deck. My opening hand contains Primordial Hydra, Contagion Engine, Rhystic Study, Farseek, Scavenger Grounds, Oran Reef the Vastwood, and a Common Tower. A pretty good hand as well, 3 lands and a ramp, a draw engine with Rhystic Study, Primordial Hydra can get out of hand quickly on its own, and Contagion Engine is really good piece against Rogue. Guillaume's opening hand contains Hungering Hydra, Deep Glowscape, Primal Rage, Kodoma's Reach, a swamp, and 2 basic forests. Not bad overall, 3 lands and a ramp as well. The Trample Enabler is really good for Zaxara's token as they can be easily blocked otherwise. I think he's gonna need something to draw to really take off. Stéphane's opening hand contains Fall of the Hammer, Renegade Tactics, Sword of Feast and Famine, Reliquary Tower, a Plains, and 2 mountains. I don't know Feather as well, but I feel like this is a pretty solid hand. The sword is an incredibly powerful equipment, the Reliquary Tower is great to keep all his small spells in hand, and the Renegade Tactics will act as a Phyrexian arena once Feather hits the table. Quickly before we get into the game, make sure to subscribe as we are releasing 2 videos each week for the whole month of December. Thanks! Kelly gets to start this match, and land drop a Fitted Pool. Stéphane land drops a Plains, and I land drop Oran Reef the Vastwood. Guillaume ends the first turn with a Forest. Kelly land drops an Island, and casts Blighted Agent. Stéphane land drops a Mountain, and I land drop a Common Tower. I then cast Farseek, searching my deck for my Breeding Pool. Guillaume land drops a Forest, and casts Primal Rage. Kelly casts Dowsing Dagger, giving the 2 plants to Stéphane. She then drops Dimir Aqueducts, returning a basic to hand. Heading into combat, Blighted Agent attacks me for 1. Stéphane then drops a Plains, and casts his commander, Feather the Redeemed. I land drop a Windswept Heath, and cast Rhystic Study. Guillaume land drops a Swamp, and casts Kodoma's Reach, searching for an island and a forest. Kelly equips the dagger on the agent. Going into combat, the Blighted Agent goes to me again. Upon dealing damage, the dagger transforms into Lost Veil. In second main, Kelly land drops a Swamp, and casts Sir Conrad the Grim. Stéphane then drops his Reliquary Tower. He goes to combat and attacks Kelly with Feather. She declares no block, and Stéphane does not cast any pump spell, this time. He then casts Solemn Simulacrum. Entering the battlefield, Stéphane searches for a basic mountain, and I use this time to crack my fetch land. I get Godless Shrine. I then untap and draw. I then drop Reflecting Pool, and cast my commander, Atraxa, Praetor's Voice.
It's not a goal, but a process. The process of creating the perfect Phyrexia.
I tap my Oran Reef to put a counter on Atraxa. And at my end step, I proliferate the counter on my commander. Guillaume land drops a Path of Ancestry. He then casts his commander, Zaxara the Exemplary. Kelly follows the trend and casts her commander, Anowon the Ruined Thief.
Why is the deck always gone?
She head into combat and send Blighted Agent to Stefan. Anowon triggers and Stefan mills 2. No creatures are milled, sadly for Kelly. She then land drops a command tower and casts Sphinx Tutelage. Stefan land drops a mountain and casts Sword of Feast and Famine, before equipping it to Feather. It's now combat time and Feather goes to Guillaume. The sword triggers on damage and Guillaume discards the forest while Stefan untaps his lands. He then casts Stout Vessel, gaining unlimited insights for a second time. I land drop a Temple Garden untapped, and then cast Blowfly Infestation. Going to combat, I send Atraxa to Kelly. At my end step, I proliferate the counter on my commander, and following Stefan's threat to destroy Atraxa, I do not proliferate his infect. At my end step as well, Stefan casts Renegade Tactics to draw a card, which is not legal since it's a sorcery. I'm sure it was an honest mistake. Guillaume then drops Rogue's Passage, and casts Zendikar's Resurgent. Kelly draws for turn, and it triggers the Tutelage, milling me 2. Conrad triggers on the creature. Heading into combat, Anowon attacks Guillaume, and the Blighted Agent comes back to me. We mill for Anowon, and Guillaume hits 2 creatures while I hit none. This causes Kelly to draw 1 card and mill me 2 more lands. We take 2 from Conrad. Kelly then drops a Drowned Catacomb, and casts Death Cult Rogue. She then casts Earwig Squad for its Prowl costs. Entering the battlefield, she targets Guillaume to exile 3 cards from his deck. She chooses Unbound Flourishing, the Great Henge, and Doubling Season. We then go to Stefan's turn and he starts with combat, sending Feather to me. Reacting to attackers, I cast Peace Within, targeting the Sword of Feast and Famine. Stefan's reacts and casts Shelter on Feather to give her protection from green. He follow it up with Uncaged Fury. I cannot block Feather and take 8 commander damage. I then drop a Scavenger Ground and cast Soul Snuffers. Entering the battlefield, each creatures get a -1/-1 counter. I then cast Dusk Urchin, which is a bit of a missequence on my part. I then go to combat and send Atraxa back to Stefan. I go to my end step and proliferate the -1/-1s and the infect on Stefan. From the proliferate, 4 creatures die. This triggers Conrad and my Blowfly Infestation 4 times. I use 2 of my Blowfly trigger to finish Conrad first. Reacting to the target, Kelly activates Conrad's ability. 1 creature is milled by me. After that, I move -1/-1 around to each creature which is at 1 counter from dying, since this will replace their Blowfly triggers. This leaves us with Anowon, Feather, and the Earwig still alive. I put the remaining 2 on Feather, which kills her, and I place my final trigger on Anowon, who is now a 0/1. I think I missed 1 trigger from Conrad dying. My bad. Guillaume goes to his turn and decides to use this board wipe to empty his hand. He casts Branching Evolution, and then Kalyonan Hydra. He gets a Scry from Path of Ancestry. He then casts Hungering Hydra, X=3. We wrongfully let him scry again, but this second mana should not have the propriety of his land. Only an actual mana doubler can do that. He land drops a forest and follow it up with a mana crypt. He then casts Protein Hydra, X=3 again. And finally, passes the turn. Kelly draws and mill me 2. She starts with combat, sending the Earwig to Stefan as he is the only open player. He mills 4 and do not hit a creature. She then land drops an island and pass. Stefan then drops a plains. He recasts Feather, and then Swiftfoot Boots, before equipping them to the commander. Being now X-proof and haste, we head into combat, and Feather attacks Kelly for 3. I then drop a Woodland Cemetery, before casting Rishkar Expertise. I tell the table that I am searching for something to slow Guillaume, so that my spell has better chance to resolve. I draw 7 cards and get to cast the Mio Field Researcher. I -2 my Planeswalker to tap down Kalyonan Hydra and the Hungering Hydra. They will not untap next turn. A bit relieved, I go to combat. I send Atraxa to Stefan and Dusk Urchin to Kelly. Urchin triggers and puts a -1/-1 on himself. At my end step, I proliferate the -1s on Kelly's Rogue and my Urchin. I do not proliferate the Hydras. Kelly reacts by activating her Tutelage to loot, milling me 2. She then flashes in Thieves' Guild Enforcer. Entering the battlefield, each opponent milk 2 cards. Anowon in the Earwig then dies to -1/-1s and get me 2 Blowfly triggers. I put them both on Kalyonen Hydra. Guillaume succeeds his mana creep roll. He then casts Llanowar Elves. He followed it up with Llanowar Tribe. He then drops Forest and casts Lifeblood Hydra where X equals 8. Kelly draws for turn and mills me 2. She recasts Anowon, the Enforcer triggers to mill each opponent. She then drops Evolving Wild, passing.
Bon, là, je constate quelque chose, je clique sur mon petit nom ici. Il est marqué Atraxa 13 de Commander Dub. Là, ton Commander tape de combien? 8?
Peut-être.
Pas mal, assez pour me tuer. Bon.
Stefan casts Shelter, targeting Feather, granting her protection from black. He then casts Uncaged Fury, and holds priority to cast Fist of Flame, and then casts Samut's Sprint on top of it. His commander fully loaded, we head into combat. Feather attacks me, I take 18 commander damage and get taken out. Guillaume succeeds his roll for Mana Crypt. He then casts Deep Glow Skate. Kelly reacts with Counter Spell, a valiant effort against the Hydra Apocalypse. Guillaume then goes to combat, and attacking with Kalyonen Hydra, he still gets to double the counters on his Hydras, which is then doubled again by his branching evolution. He sends 90 damage to Stefan and an unblockable 48/48 to Kelly, which takes out both remaining players. Looking back at this game, I think this match is a good representation of what is happening basically every game with Atraxa. I managed to do some kind of board wipe combining 3 -1/-1 cards, and I was then treated as the major threat even though I did not bring me any closer to winning. I got taken out instead of the Hydra deck on the verge of victory, and the game then ended. Goodbye, sweet deck, we might meet again. Someday. Stefan had a pretty good game, but the Heuristic Study kept him from really pushing his low-costed spell advantage. Also, as good as the value is with Feather, Voltron decks are always open to counter-attacks by the opponents. The -1/-1 board wipe was mostly hard for Kelly, resetting her board and leaving her with no unblockable rogue and to draw into an answer. Stefan is playing only 5 or 6 creatures in his decks, so the fact that he was open wasn't that helpful for her. Finally, Guillaume took his time, building a collection of enchantments and then unleashing all the Hydras at once. -1s are less effective against Hydra as they disappear by removing +1/+1s, so I can't proliferate them down. Kalyonen Hydra is a monster of a card. If it gets to attack, most game will close to an end. I know because I run it in Atraxa. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Help us reach 500 subscribers before the end of the year by joining the House of Pricey Cardboard. The official release is every Friday, Thursday for Patreons, and for the month of December we have a bonus Tuesday release. Take care and see you soon.
Bon, là, je constate quelque chose, je clique sur mon petit nom ici.